Superman Returns opened last week, and many people loved it, but some did not. That's what we're talking about in The Loop today, and we asked you before the break if you think Superman Returns sucked. Well, 68% of you thought it didn't suck, and after almost 20 years of no Superman movies, the Man of Steel is back to his former glory. Let's go over to Kevin and sort this all out.
Thank you, Olivia. Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, you've counted on these names for your entire life just to be entertained. And last week, you expected more of the same when Superman Returns hit theaters, but the fans are divided. Did Bryan Singer breathe fresh air into the franchise, or is this blockbuster just filled with a lot of hot air? We have the Superman experts, the passion, and the opinions. Folks, it's The Loop. Joining us from New York, Owen Gleiberman, film critic for Entertainment Weekly. Our resident comic book critic, Blair Butler, is here. And from Los Angeles, Superman. It's Chris Dennis, Superman expert and impersonator. Everybody, welcome to The Loop.
Hey.
It's an interesting and heated topic here. Blair, biggest comic book fan in the office here. You saw Superman over the weekend. What'd you think?
Well, you know, Kevin, there's some nice emotional moments, but overall, I think it's so disappointing, and it's a very slow way to relaunch the franchise. It's like Remains of the Day Superman. It's about a guy who lifts things, and he doesn't lift things very often. It's just a lot of like meaningful gazing, and that's fine because it would be fine in the sense that you know, fans of the comic book, some of the best stories have been stories that are slower paced Superman stories because all the rest are fast paced. And you know, people want to see action. I think the fans wanted to see Superman, you know.
Superman's back. He should at least blow something up or save something from being blown up several times, not just maybe once or twice.
Exactly.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, not a ton of action. Chris, what did you think? Was there a lack of action?
Actually, no. I thought this was actually a pretty good movie. I loved it. It had a lot of really good special effects, and there were a lot of action scenes. It was like one action scene after another.
Wow. Maybe you were at a different movie than I was at.
Well, no, I went to see Superman Returns. I saw it 3 times already. It was really awesome. I plan on seeing it several times more.
And well, Chris, what did you like so much about the film? You know, action and dialogue aside, what did you take away from it?
What did I like about it? I'm going to have to go with the fact that they used a lot of CGI and a lot of really good special effects. Bryan Singer really knows how to bring that action effect to the people. And he knows what the people want to see.
Sure. In fact, Owen actually says that Bryan Singer did his grandest work to date. Is that true, Owen? Do you disagree with Blair on this one?
Well, I think in the last hour of the movie he did, and I say that not being such a big fan of Bryan Singer's work. Look, I like this movie, didn't love it. The reason being that I was a little surprised that they felt like they needed to go back and rehash the 1978 Richard Donner Superman.
Yeah.
If you go back and you watch that movie, it's kind of a big, overblown, clunky, elephantine film. Why the reverence for that film and its sequel even? I would have preferred a kind of creative reimagining, like Batman Begins.
And
the other thing is when you go back and you redo that movie and you get an actor, Brandon Routh, and cast him because he looks exactly like Christopher Reeve or close enough, and tell him to mimic Christopher Reeve's performance, well, guess what? I'm going to be thinking of Christopher Reeve, and Christopher Reeve was better. Having said that,
well,
I
actually,
think the
I
best
kind of
thing in this
disagree
movie,
with you on this one because he basically brought out his own character as Superman and as Clark Kent. Sure, there's some scenes in this one where you see him looking kind of like Christopher Reeve and making some of the motions and whatnot, but I strongly believe that he brought his own character to this. Same with Lex Luthor.
Blair, what did you think? Was this a rehash of a previous Superman that we saw?
I mean, I really think it's so similar to the Donner films and so reverent to those films that there are even lines from the first Superman in this film. And if it's an homage, I think that's a weird way to launch a franchise by basically showing people everything they've seen before with better CG. But I mean, it's like Superman. You know, I think people are excited to see Superman fight someone who can really give him a run for his money now that CG has evolved, and it's really the exact same Lex Luthor everyone's seen in the other films.
But Blair, do you think that Brandon Routh brought something to this character that we hadn't seen before? Yes or no on that one?
I think he's a very serviceable Superman. I really didn't have a problem with him. I had a problem with this as sort of a genre film, because I really don't think it feels like a comic book movie. The great comic book movies, I walked out of X-Men 2 or Spider-Man 2 just thinking, you know what, I want to go see that again right away.
All right, now I want to ask Owen real quick here, because
I'm going to have to interrupt you on this one. With the script on this one, it was entirely different, so I don't see anything that matches up with the Richard Donner film. Sure, you have the airplane that's going down and stuff, but it's not the same.
It's got the same plot. It's got it's got two lines.
All right,
from the Donner
one thing
film.
this movie has, which was surprising to me, and other comic book and superhero movies in the past have lacked, is a super baby. Now, save for baby geniuses, haven't we learned that infants tend to ruin films? Owen, what do you think about the baby revelation in this film?
I thought that was a potentially good idea that they actually didn't do a lot with. I mean, the kid has one scene, and that's about it. Look, the best thing in this movie is not that, and it's also not all this Christ imagery that the media is talking about. I really didn't see that laid on so heavily. It's really there in the Superman myth. He's a god. He's a god who comes to Earth to save Earth. That's what he does in every Superman adventure going back to the 30s. So I didn't see this as some heavy religious allegory. The thing that finally won me over about this movie, despite the fact that I wish they hadn't rehashed the Donner films, is that it actually has a pretty good love triangle. The one between Kate Bosworth, her boyfriend, and Superman.
I totally
agree. I agree with that.
It becomes
as well.
a metaphor. It's really, in a strange way, it's really Lois Lane's story. It becomes a metaphor for the fact that she's really in love with Superman, but he's the kind of manly ideal of perfection, and she has to give that up to have a normal life. It's a kind of metaphor for a woman settling down, kind of the woman's version of what a bachelor has to go through.
I completely agree, but when Lois Lane gets laser eyes and ice breath, then I'll go see her movie. I thought I was watching Superman's film.
As a comic book fan, you know, having I agree completely that the James Marsden stuff is actually the most interesting conflict in the film, but if you're talking about that's great if it's a Merchant Ivory film, but this is a Superman film.
All right, Blair,
I'm just saying that,
I know I have a lot of heated opinions here, but we have to
the
wrap
way
it up,
they
folks.
worked it out with this Superman character because he left.
All right,
and
Chris,
then, of
I'm
course,
sorry,
he
sir.
comes
I
back.
got to cut you off there, but I appreciate it. Obviously, very, very heated debate here amongst everybody. I was totally behind this movie until I found out that Crypto, the super dog, and Beppo, the super monkey, they weren't in it. So hopefully they'll be in the sequel. But until then, thanks to our guests, Owen, Blair, and Chris, for joining us on this very heated and very interesting debate. Thanks for keeping us in the loop.